Uh, so he called the place. He called the place name of that place Mahanaim, which means two camps. And then Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau, his brother, in the land of Seir, the country of Edom, which that is Edom meaning red, which describes Esau. So the Edomites are of Esau. And he commanded them, saying, "Speak thus to my lord Esau. Thus your servant Jacob says, I have dwelt with Laban and stayed there until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, and male and female servants, and I have sent to tell my lord that I may find favor in your sight." Then the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, "We came to your brother Esau, and he also is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him." Oh, what I see happening here is God's testing Jacob, as it doesn't advise us why Esau has 400 men with him. But whatever the reason, it sure doesn't seem to set well with Jacob. So will he stay strong in trusting God's instruction and promise, or will he give way to fear? And will Jacob run from what is overwhelming him? Or will Jacob stand up and face his fears and trust that God's got his back? So Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that were with him, and the flocks and the herds and the camel, into two companies. And he said, if Esau comes to the one company and attacks it, the other company which is left will escape. So he's not running away, but he is dividing just in case God's promise isn't as he thinks.
He's covering all bases.
He's covering,
He's planning ahead.
He's planning ahead, he's covering. So Jacob fell to, in here, Jacob, so now we got to also think, what Esau comes to the one, so what are Esau's real intentions? This is what's going through Jacob's mind. Also notice something else here. We can see and identify with the feelings of guilt that Jacob has now for what happened 20 years ago. As he says, if Esau comes to one company and attacks it. Now, according to one theory, which kind of made the most sense to me, is a strategy that Jacob felt it would be best to, one, advise his brother that he's coming back and where he was for the last 20 years. I was with Laban. I was there. I didn't, he wasn't around sneaking, hiding, and everything like that. Anytime Esau would have gone down, he would have found him. Two, Jacob has plenty of livestock and provision that he's not coming back to take or trick Esau out of anything. Like at his birth, like the birthright, which was done under his mother's discretion. So, and he sent the messengers to seek favor and to find out if he's over what's happened in the past. In other words, is that yoke of hate that Esau had for Jacob gone from around his neck? Remember the blessing Isaac said over Esau in Genesis 27:39-40. Then Isaac, his father, said to him, "Behold, your dwelling shall be of the fatness of the earth and of the dew of the heaven from above. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother, and it shall come to pass, when you become restless, that you shall break his yoke from your neck." Now, I kind of also have to wonder if in this process that it wasn't a twofold blessing curse, because both of them had a yoke around their neck, one of anger, the other one of guilt and fear. So, because even Esau tried to cry and everything was taken away from him. So there hopefully comes a time where people finally wake up and realize all the hate that takes up so much time in their lives. And if they let go of the yoke that holds them down, Jesus offers us a yoke and promises that his burdens of his yoke are light compared to what the world has to offer. Jesus' yoke is well balanced for any of us that want to be with him. So there's your two yokes, guilt and anger, which both hold us back. If we're hanging on to the guilt and if we're hanging on to the anger, our hands aren't open for the blessings.
That's right, because you're consumed from the hate and the anger.
Yeah. And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, the Lord who said to me, return to your country and to your family, and I will deal well with you. Okay, notice Jacob's prayer to God. It's like, hey, God, you told me to come back and you said all will go well. And here comes my brother with 400 men. And God, this has me scared. So here I am on your word. I'm praying to you now. He's giving his fear to him. And then Jacob goes on to say, I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies and of all the truth which you have shown your servant. For I crossed over this Jordan with my staff, and now I have become two companies. So when he first went to Laban, he had nothing. He had a staff. That's it. He worked for Leah. He worked for Rachel. He did all that work. And everything that he has, he worked for, he built. And God blessed him with the different types, if the sheep do this, those, and Laban kept trying to change it around. So Jacob realizes where he stands in all of this, much like us. We are not worthy, but we will trust in your word, God. In my fear and anxiety, even though I deserve it, I am here on your instructions. I came with nothing, and now I have divided so that if something doesn't go right, not all is lost. Remember, he's now sitting and he just separated everything into two groups. So, kind of like I'm trusting in you, Lord. Let's use a lifeline here just in case your word falls short. Even though he even rationalizes it to somehow help God's promise to be fulfilled, just like Sarah did with Ishmael. So his final part of his prayer is, deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he come and attack me and the mother with children. For you said, I will surely treat you well and make your descendants as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. So Jacob knows what he's been told. Jacob heard the promise. And now that Esau's coming with 400 men, he's like, what's happening? So it's a test. You going to stand and have God, know that God's going to stand behind his word, or are you going to doubt God? So Jacob really gives his fear to the Lord, and he comes again to God with the promise that God gave him. It's like, Jacob, God, you promised, and I am here because of you. Or in the words of the Bible, when something's repeated, the value is being very important, or very, very important, or very, very, very important. So kind of see here a preview of Peter stepping out of the boat in the storm of Esau with the 400 men has him focused on the threat of man and not the promise of God. But as long as he keeps his focus, he will weather this storm. So he's praying and he's giving it back to the Lord. The storm seems great that I'm facing, and it feels like it wants to undermine the plans. How many times have we felt that? And it's just like everything's going wrong, but if you keep trusting in the Lord, some things just kind of start falling into place when we stop fighting it. Just like how the serpent whispered into Eve's ear to convince her to do what God didn't want. He's got, hey, Esau's coming with 400 men. Does that scare you? Yeah, it does. But I got God on my side. So he lodges at the same place that night. And he took what came into his hand as a present for Esau, his brother. This is 200. So he comes out with 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes, 20 rams. All these are ones that came to his hand, that came to him. So these are more trusting of the animals. So he's not giving Esau the scared other ones. He's giving the ones that are trusting, very trusting. So interesting how it makes a comment that he takes what came to his hands and presents those to Esau. Now, one train of thought here is Jacob gave Esau those animals that came to his hand that are more trusting, it as the sign, and I believe it to be twofold. How many times are we told that the sheep know their master's voice? So, and everything that he's giving Esau, we're going to find is streamed out. So it makes it harder for Esau to hide. Excuse me. Oh, I just got that spot in the back of my throat. Yeah. Sorry.
We've never done
Excuse me.
Take 5 seconds.
So 30, he adds in 30 milk camels with their colts, 40 cows, and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 foals. Then he delivered them to hands of his servants. Every drove by itself. Steve.
Why don't I read?
Can you stop the live stream? It's just a spot in my back of my throat.
Did you get that tickle? It's like some peppermint?
Is that a
I got Yeah, I got some Deutera cough drops. Okay. Alrighty. Part 2.
Sure.
Alrighty. Are we back on? Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. Part 2. So, I'll go back up to 33:13. So he lodged there that same night and took what came to his hand as a present for Esau his brother: 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes, and 20 rams, 30 milk camels with their colts, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 foals. Then he delivered them to the hands of his servant, every drove by itself. And he said to his servants, "Pass over before me and put some distance between successive droves." And he commanded the first one, Steve, I'm gonna have Steve take over. Well, okay. Then he delivered them to the hands of the servant, every drove by itself. He said to his servants, "Pass over before me and put some distance between the successive droves."
I guess I'm starting right now. So if Esau had any intentions of killing and plundering, Jacob is willingly giving a good portion of his herds, so that the army, if they were planning on ill-gotten goods, there is no need to know. Jacob gave them what they wanted. And with them being separated, it gives time for Esau to warm up to his brother coming back also. So, I guess we're jumping up to 70. Yeah. Sheep know their master's voice, actually animals in general, but lots of livestock will come to the master's call once they know it means food. I think I got a lot of animals like that. You do? Well, even your dog knows the time of day that you're going to get ready to feed him. Or something with benefits that benefits the animals. So what that is meant. Could you imagine having 200 goats and 200 sheep blending, only to hear Jacob's voice again? They should kind of get the idea that it makes setting up an ambush hard and harder. So we're on slides 17. I'll go back to 17. And he commanded the first one, saying, "When Esau my brother meets you and asks you, saying, 'To whom do you belong, and where are you going?' Those are these in front of you. Who? Then Jacob shall say, 'They are your servants, Jacob. It is a present sent to my lord Esau, and behold, he also is behind us.' So he commanded the second, the third, and all who follows the droves, saying, In this manner you shall speak to Esau when you find him. And also say, Behold, your servant Jacob is behind us. For he said, I will appraise him with the presence that goes before me, and after I will see his face, perhaps he will accept me. So the presence went on over before him, but he himself lodged that night in the camp. And he rose that night and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed over the forth of Jacob. He took them, sent them over the brook, sent over what he had. Then Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of day. Now, when he saw what he had done did not prevail against him, he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was out of joint as he wrestled with him. And he said, Let me go, for the day breaks. But he said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. So he said to him, What is your name? He said, Jacob.
Okay. Oh,
You ready?
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that, people. Thank you. That was a little practice run for him next week. Oh, man. So, when, back up to verse 20, when Jacob took and sent him over the brook and sent over what he had, have you ever been troubled and worried to the point that you feel like you're having an internal spiritual type fight? Here we have Jacob, about 97 years old, wrestling with a man. Notice how the man is capitalized, indicating that it is of God. And I have to wonder if some of this is like the same walk in the wilderness that Jesus had, but on a lower level. So now when he saw that he did not prevail against him, he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob was out of joint as he wrestled with him. So here is where I'm led to believe that it's more of a spiritual battle. Because with just a touch, Jacob's hip was popped out of its socket as in a muscle ligament damage, not as a broken bone. I tend to agree more with this more, as a broken bone would have prevented travel. Where a popped muscle, yeah, it hurts. It puts a serious hitch in your get along, but you're able to still get along, or limp along, or drag along. And then he said, Let me go, for the day breaks. But he says, I will not let you go unless you bless me. So he said it to him, What is your name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, Your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel. For you have struggled with God and with men and have prevailed. Then Jacob asked, saying, Tell me your name, I pray. And he said, Why is it that you ask me about my name? And he blessed him there. So I find this kind of funny. Jacob was just told who it was and how he struggled with God and with men, and now he wants to know the angel's name. I wonder if God got a chuckle out of that one. But there are some speculations saying that Jacob was fighting some deity of some sort. But when we go to Hosea 12:2-4, it says, the Lord also brings a charge against Judah and will punish Jacob according to his ways. According to his deeds, he will recompense him. He took his brother by the heel in the womb, and in his strength, he struggled with God. Yes, he struggled with the angel and prevailed. He wept and sought favor from him. He found him in Bethel, and there he spoke to us. So, now we, excuse me. So Jacob called that name, the place, Peniel. I'll get to it here in a minute. For I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. Just as he crossed the river of Penuel, the sun rose on him, and he limped on his hip. Therefore, to this day, the children of Israel do not eat the muscle that shrank, which is on the hip socket, because he touched the socket of Jacob's hip and the muscle that shrank. So here we have where the struggle went, and here's Bethel, and then down here we have Bethlehem, and it's amazing how much stuff just will be constantly in this area, and how it builds up towards when Jesus is born. Part of Jacob's strategy they have in here, again, dealing when you have 5 distinct groups of animals arriving in succession, that would wear down the military's readiness of Esau's band. And if they were planning an ambush, they would have to set it up each time a group arrived. And I'll tell you, bleeding sheep and bleeding goats, and they make a lot of noise on those rocks. They make a lot of noise, period. So it takes a sneak attack and kind of puts a big challenge to it. You're not gonna be ambushing on that. They also had it marked here. You got a lot of things going on between a journey, coming back. We do not know at this point if he even knows that his parents are still alive, because when he left, we have Isaac old and can't see, and he's been gone 20 years. So it's like he doesn't have a total knowledge on that. And as I was going back, researching some stuff, going back to last chapter, when at the Mitzpah, where Laban and Jacob are speaking, and he says, "And may the Lord watch between you and me when we are absent from one another." There's a lot of people who carry this little necklace half and half, thinking, oh, like the boyfriend girlfriend type thing. May the Lord. That was anything but the truth behind that verse, because Laban does not trust Jacob. Jacob does not trust Laban. Jacob says, by this pillar, you go. And Laban's like, at this pillar and altar. He puts it even deeper. So I thought that was quite interesting, because I always, even as a kid, it's, sorry about that. The verse is Genesis chapter 31 and verse 49. And that's in this Mitzpah, which a little bit further up off that map. That's where Laban caught up with him. But I thought that was quite interesting when I caught that today, and I felt that it was worthy of sharing, because how we've taken some scriptures and we put a different meaning to them, and that's not what the meaning was. It even says here, may the Lord watch between you and me. It's not unusual today to hear this intoned by a minister as the benediction in a congregation at the end of a service, or even to find it inscribed on wedding rings. It's using it this way, we show our misunderstanding of the words. Here in Genesis, they express suspicion. Laban does not trust Jacob. Jacob does not trust Laban. They both regret that they will have no means to keep an eye on one another and prevent mischief making. So they commend one another to the watchful eye of deity, which is God. A paraphrase is, I don't trust you out of my sight, but since I can no longer personally hold you accountable, may God do so. So it's hardly a sentiment that one would want on a wedding ring, although a minister may feel that way about a congregation. It is not in good taste to express it so unequivocally. So just be careful what verses you're looking at, and read above and below it so that you know it. Because that one just, it didn't dawn on me until it was there, and it's like, oh my gosh, yes, that's not right. And it's constantly done to us. We get, pops of verses, and that's why I'm decided to take this the way we've gone, and just go through the Bible and not just cherry pick out certain parts, because I was referred to on somebody talking about Leviticus, and Leviticus is full of rules, regulations, laws, everything else. Well, we couldn't even do the 10 Commandments. So let's give you some guidance a little bit bigger. And it's not about commanding. It's not supposed to be an ordinance per se. It's, this is how I'd like you to live. But you can't live naturally like this without, some little trip here, some little trip up there. And that's where we fall short. God sent his son to fulfill it, to show us that it can be done, but not on our own. There's no way on our own, not in this world. We try, and there's always these little blurps and oops, and so yeah, it was just, and then Jacob's strategy. I mean, here, I'm going to give you all these things. I'm going to give you the prime part of what I'm giving you, but at the same token, there comes a price with that. And that's your ambush. If you're going to ambush me, if you're going to do this, it just slowed you down. But at the same token, we'll see what happens with Esau, because I think part of it, it's like, we'll see that he's already got what he needs. He doesn't need it. Obviously, with 400 men, he's doing something. But I think that would be a little unsettling. And sometimes life kind of feels like that. We feel like, oh, I'm led to do this, and then in the process of being led to do this, you've got something coming back at you that, oh, I was mad at you 20 years ago. I got, 400 of my buddies, and here we come, and we get anxiety over it. We get this, and when we turn to the Lord, we can let that anxiety go. It's hard, but we do it. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So, any questions?
How many miles approximately from
I think it was 300. What was it? It was 350 from Beersheba to Haran. I think it was like 350. So, this is 10 kilometers. Yeah. Yeah, here's where they went across, the coming back. Going out, they have a crossing up at the top, but coming back, they have, because here's Penuel, and then he crosses over here, and here's Shechem, and then we'll get to Bethel, so he ends up down here, and then yeah, he crosses through Bethlehem because he ends up in this is more his final destination in Hebron, until the point that the drought and famine hit, and then off to Egypt they go, which we'll get to here. One step at a time. But yeah, so we have strategy working, wrestling with God. I thought that one was kind of interesting, because obviously God could have just like broke anything, just said, "Hey, you're dead." But so the spiritual battle, obviously he won something. He won God in that he stayed strong. He didn't run away. He dealt with his battle in, whatever was internally. Love to know more what happened there, but they only give us tidbits because they want to get us the baseline for Jesus, not all the other rabbit holes. Yeah. Coming back, yeah, he started from Haran. No, this Haran is in northern part. It's like way up here. Yeah, no, there is a Haran, India, but it's the left one. We want the right one. There. Yeah, no, they it's like there's two Bethlehems, and there's a northern and the southern. Yeah. Oh, and I mean it's like in Ohio. They have what is it? Two cities that are named this. Let's see. She lived in between Cincinnati, Chillicothe. There's not Chillicothe, Bainbridge. There's two Bainbridge, Ohio's. One in between Chillicothe and Cincinnati, and the other one's further north. Yeah, don't ask me why you would. So, same thing. There's two Bethlehems, but kids. Yeah, crazy.
Okay, you're gonna get spanked, so they all line up.
Well,
and yet his life was spared.
yeah, same thing, I believe, with Hagar. Moses, well, even with Moses, it says, you can't see me in the face. He puts him in the cleft of the rock and he gets to see God from the back, but he couldn't see God's face. More that I think it's best way I could describe it is when I look at the Grand Canyon or I look at some big, huge mountain, I see God, but it's not that you see God physically, you see his works.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you see his works.
Yeah, so you know it's God, you know it's of God, but not necessarily that you're looking at the face of God. You're looking at God's messenger, you're looking at God's message, you're looking at what God has done. Yeah, because it does state that no man has ever seen God. And that makes me even wonder, like Adam, what did you do? But he heard, he knew God was coming through the garden and hid because he was ashamed, because he did what he wasn't supposed to do. And again, it says God came in the cool of the afternoon. So we know by that there was temperature differences during the day.
Just to believe that, more like evening.
Yeah, more like, the day is done. Did you watch the trees grow? The grass is coming, yeah. It's like I always said about baseball, if it was any slower, it'd be farming. So, anyway, sorry for the coughing fit. It was like,
Yeah, we couldn't tell, but we were worried about it.
I just, it happened the last time I had to have the the brain scour.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just makes it itch back there. So next week, Steve will be taking over. He got a little test run today. I already see what I need to do, because you'll probably get part of your notes up there too, because he was reading off of everything.
But did we get our permission?
Well, if everything comes right, I will be having surgery and getting the hardware out of my foot Friday.
What time? I want to make sure you're here in time.
Tell the doctors that she's
Yeah.
got to be. You got something
Okay.
important to do.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and close out so he can shut it down. So anyways, thank you, Lord. Thank you,